Welcome everybody to the Strategies for Engaging Families webinar. Faith Scheibe and myself, Carolina Zamora, are Early Childhood Technical Assistance Specialists, and Carla Guidi is our Virtual Communities Lead at the National Technical Assistance Center for Preschool Development Grants Birth Through 5. We're excited to welcome our guest panelists from 4 different states to share their strategies they are using to connect and empower families in their state. Let's do some webinar logistics first. If you could take a minute to set your Zoom name to show your name and the state that you represent, it will help everyone know who is here. If you are in need of a snack or it's your lunchtime, you should feel comfortable turning your camera off, although I will say it is always nice to see your faces while we are presenting. Please make sure you mute unless you're asking a question so that we can reduce background noise. I encourage you to use the chat at any time if you have questions. And as you probably saw the pop-up come up, this webinar is being recorded so that we can make it available to those who could not join today or for your reference later. Next slide. There we go. Our objectives for today are to increase state staff knowledge of different approaches to systemic family engagement, learn about 4 different approaches for promoting family engagement at the state level, and learn about the structures created, successes, experiences, lessons learned, challenges faced, and hear ideas about the future directions from each state on how they are implementing their programs in a mixed delivery system. Next slide. Our agenda for today: first, we'll set the groundwork by looking at the research around family engagement. Then we'll do a brief overview of the strategies we're talking about today. We will then hear from our 4 state presenters. Wow. Next, we'll have a panel of questions. And finally, we will tell you about ways to continue your learning. I'll pass it on to Faith and remind everyone to please mute unless you're asking a question. Thank you. Faith, are you there?
I was on mute, so sorry. Thanks, Carolina. Let's start with understanding why it's so important to increase family engagement. Research has illustrated that strong, productive family partnerships in early learning have clear ties to long-term cognitive, academic, and social emotional benefits for children. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the U.S. Department of Education released a guidance document on family engagement from the early years to the early grades. Families have, I think someone's not muted. Families have strong and sustained effects on children's development, learning, and wellness. And studies indicate that nurturing, responsive, and sensitive parenting promotes social, emotional competence and academic success. Fathers' involvement in their children's learning has been found to have positive effects on children's cognition, language, and social emotional development. Promoting enriching learning activities in the classroom and in the home, facilitated by all of the adults in children's lives, contributes to children's learning and developmental outcomes, and is a central component of effective family engagement. Family well-being is also a strong predictor of children's school readiness. Financial stability during the early childhood years has been found to improve children's academic achievement, promote positive behavior, and foster mental health. Families with secure housing, healthcare, and access to nutritious food have positive effects on children's development, and lack of access to these basic resources can have adverse effects. Parental health and mental health can impact parenting and children's outcomes. For example, parental depression can contribute to less responsive parenting and is associated with anxiety and depression in children. While many families are strong and resilient in the face of adversity, this research points toward an important fact. The programs where children learn and develop should not ignore family wellness if they want to meaningfully engage families and fulfill their mission to prepare children for school and academic success. Next slide, please. So research shows family engagement in children's learning, early learning, is related to better outcomes for children. State leaders are in a position to enact policies that will lead to increased family engagement at both the state and program levels. Here are a few examples of strategies states can use. Can you go back to the next slide, please? Parent advisory cabinets are made up of parents from across the state to advise and help. Sylvia, would you mind muting yourself? Parent advisory cabinets are made up of parents across the state to advise and help state leaders learn how they can make experiences of young children and their families better, while preparing parents and caregivers to be leaders and providing opportunities to use those skills to impact their programs and community. The family ambassador strategy is valuable because parents and caregivers learn skills, share information, and then participate in community and state level advisory groups to provide feedback to inform policy and practice. Family cafes enable parents and caregivers to learn from other parents in a fun, supportive atmosphere, prepare parents and caregivers to be leaders, and then provide the opportunity to use those learned skills to impact their parenting, program, and community. Learning hubs support the work of local partnerships and connect them to the statewide early childhood system, therefore having a collective impact on the connection between the state and smaller communities, all the while educating and empowering families. Go to the next slide. We're gonna do our polls.
So we have our first of two polls that you will see launched on your screen shortly. The first question is, do you have a statewide parent engagement framework? Yes, no, or not sure. If you're not a state staff person, you could just go ahead and click not sure. And we also have our second question. Can we go to the next slide? Which is, which of the following family engagement activities are you working to employ or improve statewide? You can select all that apply. Parent advisory cabinets, parent cafes, community hubs, family ambassadors. If you have an other, we'd really love to hear it. So please share it in the chat, or you could click, I don't know. Okay, how are we doing with responses? And can you go back to the first poll question? So our two questions, do you have a statewide parent engagement framework? And which of the following parent engagement activities? We're going to give you a few more minutes to read those over, think about, or a few more seconds rather, to think about and respond. And okay, can we close the, thank you. Okay, most of you, it's a bigger chunk of not sure, and some that are not doing something, but many of you are doing some, have a statewide parent engagement framework. And it seems to be that the Parent Advisory Council and the parent cafes are neck and neck with the most used strategy. And I'm loving that there are some others so that I can look in the chat to see what you all put. We're going to close this and move on. I'll pass it back to Faith.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Carla, can you switch to the next slide, please? We're now going to hear from 4 different states talk about the implementation of effective strategies that they use to engage the families within their state. We have representatives from Kentucky, Georgia, North Carolina, and Connecticut. Thank you. Our first presenters are from Connecticut. We are joined by Lorna Thomas Farquharson, who is the program manager for the Preschool Development Grant Birth to 5 grant, and her office is within Connecticut's Office of Early Childhood. She is joined by Elena Trueworthy, who serves as the Connecticut Head Start State Collaboration Office Director, which is also housed within the Office of Early Childhood. Go ahead, Lorna and Elena.
All right, thank you so much, Faith, and thank you all. It's such an honor to be here before you. And in terms of this effort, in terms of recognizing the family engagement and family voice, that is something that is integral with the Office of Early Childhood. And we are so thankful to the Preschool Development Grant for supporting our efforts to carry this through in many ways. And we have many different activities, many different initiatives supporting this, but one in particular that we are very proud of is our parent cabinet. This has been underway for some time, and we are at a place now of really carrying it forward. So honored to have this led by our teammate, Elena Trueworthy, who is here to share more with you about this effort. Elena, passing it off to you.
Great, thank you very much, Lorna. Next slide, please. It is such a pleasure to be here, and from the perspective of Head Start as well, where we know that family engagement and leadership is such a critical component. But within the OEC, what are we striving to do with this parent cabinet? The cabinet will be a diverse parent-led advisory group that partners and genuinely partners with the agency to really raise up family voice and develop equitable family-driven policies, programs, and practices. The members of the parent cabinet, the goal is to have them provide guidance to the agency as to how we can improve programs and laws related to all young children and families across the state in the different sectors and different funding streams. And for them to really help us inform us around the needs of families from all backgrounds and across all parts of the state. And how the OEC as an agency, how we can really form longing and lasting effective partnerships with families. So the mission that we have developed is to build connections, listen, and partner with Connecticut families, communities, and the OEC to incorporate the expertise of all parents, because that is truly what we strive to do, is raise up and really value and honor the expertise of all families. Next slide. So the history is that for the past year, we have been meeting with a group of 10 parent leaders from across the state to really help co-create and co-design the parent cabinet. And we drew upon many models and strategies. We know there's some great work and evidence and research out there. Within Connecticut specifically, really drawing upon our Connecticut's framework and definition of family engagement, our 2Gen initiative, and our Parent Leadership Training Institute, where it was born in Connecticut, but also some of the national resources around Head Start's family and community engagement and the manifesto for race, equity, and parent leadership. Next slide. So what does this look like, or what will it look like? So we are planning for 15 members total. We have broken the state up into 6 regions, so 2 representatives from each region, and then there will be 3 at-large seats. 60% of families will be connected to the Office of Early Childhood somehow, so either accepting subsidies within our child care program, part of home visiting, for example, and 40% of the members will be other. So families not directly connected to the Office of Early Childhood or with older children or community members, and we'll be having 2-year terms. So I think the important piece about this diagram and this picture is the arrows with communication flow. We're being very intentional around communication flowing from the state down to the local, and then that feedback loop back up to the state. And we have put in partnerships in place at the local level to make sure that happens. Great. Next slide. So we really want to thank you on behalf of Lorna and Elena from Connecticut. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorna and Elena. Our next presenter is from Georgia. Susan Adams serves as the Deputy Commissioner for Pre-K and Instructional Supports within the Georgia Department of Early Care and Learning. Susan, take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here today and talk about our family peer ambassadors. In the development of our PDG work, we really wanted to think through two initiatives with families. One was similar to Connecticut and thinking about family voice and making sure that we had opportunities for families to participate within our system in authentic ways. And then also to really increase the knowledge that our families have about developmental milestones and understanding how to monitor their own child's development and understand how they can promote good development and understanding services within our system. So we took those two kinds of priorities and have developed what we are calling family peer ambassadors. Next slide, please. Our family peer ambassadors come from families that have children that are either in one of our programs across our system, or they've had kids within the last 2 years. So we really wanted families that were engaged. And the family ambassadors come from a wide range of programs. Some of them have children in our state-funded pre-K program or Head Start or Early Head Start. Some of them have children that are participating in early intervention or special education preschool or home visiting program. We've also worked to have a real diverse representation in our family ambassadors. So we have some families who are Spanish speaking, foster parents, grandparents. So parents that both have experience in the programs, but come from a lot of backgrounds, because we wanted to ensure that we were able for families to see themselves represented. So what do these peer ambassadors do? Well, they're trained to understand our system in Georgia. They're trained in some peer learning institutes and leadership. And then they're trained specifically in our child development resources. And we'll talk about a new website. And then they have opportunities to be paid stipends to promote those topics. First, it was through face-to-face events. And we had about over 100 events done across the state face-to-face. But then we had to shift to having a virtual presence. So we were working on social media and looking at supporting families through virtual platforms. So things like Facebook posts, and they really focused on our developmental milestones website. In addition, these family ambassadors participate in community and state level advisory groups and provide feedback on policy and practice. Next slide, please. This is a new website that was developed with our PDG funding that focuses on development and helping families understand milestones. It's all based on the work of the Centers for Disease Control, Learn the Signs, Act Early. Our family engagement manager at the state is our CDC family ambassador or state ambassador. And this website is specifically designed for families to understand development and look at those milestones. And you can take a look at it. Next slide, please. So when we had to move virtually for family ambassadors to support families across the state, we did some training with them for them to understand how to work on social media. And basically we're trained to be social media influencers. And you'll see here 2 posts that were done by some of our family ambassadors. We developed over 45 templates for them to use. and they are actually paid to do posts on our behalf on their own social media. So they're posting on their Facebook, their Instagram, to promote our developmental milestones. And they have hashtags that they use that direct families back to our website. We've had over 1,000 posts done, and we've had a large number of traffic, you can imagine, to our developmental milestones website. Very popular, and it's been an interesting way to engage these family ambassadors during the pandemic when they can't do face-to-face events. Next slide, please. Next steps, we are training an additional cohort. We just closed an application for our third cohort, and we got 70 applicants for cohort 3, and we'll be training new ambassadors to continue our work, but then we'll also be training a select group of lead ambassadors to do parent cafes. And so they'll be trained on parent cafes, around some of the strengthening family work, and then they'll be providing those virtual cafes on child development across this. So really excited about this work and glad to talk to you about it today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. It's a great lead into our next state presenter, who's from Kentucky. Kristen Martin is the program administrator for the Early Childhood Mental Health Program, which is housed in the Kentucky Department for Public Health. Kristen, take it away.
Hello, guys. I'm here to review the core concepts behind Kentucky's Parent Cafe model. So parent cafes are free parent-led get-togethers that encourage parents to openly talk about the difficulties of being a parent and share ways to strengthen their families. This is an opportunity for parents and caregivers to learn from other parents in a fun and supportive atmosphere. Parent cafes move parents beyond isolation to get and give the support they need to keep their families strong. So parent cafes are discussion events, and we cover the 5 national protective factors from the Center of Social Policy's Strengthening Families framework. The first is parental resilience, meaning this. I think I just got muted. Well, can you all hear? Okay, sorry. I don't know who's muting me, but it keeps, I'm not touching it, so. The second is knowledge of child development. Families learn how children grow and develop. The third is social connections. Families have friends that they can count on. The fourth is social and emotional competence of children, meaning families teach children how to have healthy relationships. And the fifth is concrete supports in times of need. Families get assistance to meet their basic needs. Kentucky Strengthening Families added 1 additional protective factor. So we have 6 that we work off of. Our 6th protective factor is nurturing and attachment, meaning families ensure that children feel loved and safe. So let's review briefly what we do in a parent cafe. We create a safe, welcoming, and inviting environment. We build connections through conversations and system change relationships. We use protective factors as a strength-based philosophy, and we partner with families and celebrate differences and sameness. We use conversation decks during the parent cafes to get conversations started. These were created by parents and use parent-friendly language to define the concepts that we discuss. We start parent cafes by reviewing the cafe agreements so that everyone is on the same page. These agreements are: speak from your own experience and use I statements, listen attentively, do not interrupt, no judgments, positive or negative, do not give advice, conversations must remain confidential, what stays in the talked about in the cafe stays in the cafe, unless it's something that we're mandated to report. Cell phones are to be turned off and silenced, and guests are permitted to exit and re-enter the room at their own convenience. So we know that all families have strengths. We don't need to fix those, but we can support their successes. As a strength-based approach, strengthening families values the wisdom and experience of parents. It supports that there is no one right way to parent and that parenting is a personal thing and it's our job not to improve those parents. Our job is to improve how we value and respect what parents desire and want for their own families. Strengthening families acknowledges that all families need support. Some families need more than others. Some families might already be getting all the support that they need, and then most families are somewhere in the middle. The protective factors benefit all families. Strengthening families is not like traditional child abuse programs that target certain families because of risk factors. The idea is to bring together all families from various backgrounds and focus on protective factors that all families need. Interventions with families with young children, such as Kentucky Strengthening Families, have a lasting impact, such as increased access to parents. These families often seek out support or parenting ideas. And we know that young children are a high risk group for abuse and neglect, so adding additional support to these families is beneficial. Parent cafes are successful for many reasons. Some of these are: families are supported and strengthened by one another. Parents feel valued and safe. Parents learn from the experience of others. A parent cafe can only be successful if you get parents to the table. Some ways we have worked to engage parents are partnering with other agencies, advertising in multiple ways and through relationships, linking families to services and opportunities, valuing and supporting families, taking off our hat as service providers and trying not to be the expert, facilitating social and emotional development of children, allowing families to experience mutual benefit by giving back to their own communities, and trusting parents and giving them ownership of the initiative. So after you've heard a little bit about how parent cafes run, I'm sure you're wondering how we've adapted during the pandemic. The answer is that it's been really challenging and hard, but we've tried to make the most of it. We have helped our community partners adjust to an online platform and still have meaningful connections with parents, meeting them where they're at and adjusting our approach frequently based off the feedback we've received from parents. We meet for shorter amounts of time and make sure our focus is on topics that the parents identify. This is just a brief overview of what we do. I'd love to chat more with you each individually if you're interested in hearing more about what we're doing. My contact information is on this next slide, and feel free to reach out if you'd like to further the discussion. It's been a pleasure to be here with all of you all today, and I'd love to hear more from you if you're interested in connecting. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Our final state presenter is from North Carolina. Alexandra Morris serves as the state-level family engagement coordinator for the Division of Child Development and Early Education within the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. Take it away.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. There we are. I'm Alexandra Morris, and as Faith said, I'm the state-level family engagement coordinator for the North Carolina Early Childhood System. Next slide, please. In North Carolina, in order to strengthen family engagement and leadership, we began our journey in 2019. Where the Division of Child Development and Early Education first created a position, the position I'm in, Family Engagement Coordinator for the state, which is PDG funded and has been helpful in supporting this work that we've been developing for the past 2 years. We also have partnered with our statewide North Carolina Partnership for Children, known as Smart Start. And in 2019, we pulled together a cross-sector group of 74 people, which we called our Family Engagement and Leadership Coalition. And our purpose was to design and create a framework of best practices for strengthening family engagement and leadership in the context of early childhood. that the framework that we developed was designed to be very cross-sector. So as you can see, if you can read those little categories, we pulled in a lot of folks from different sectors of early childhood that touch on early childhood in different ways. So that included a lot of Smart Start and local folks. So we definitely were able to create a state community feedback loop and strengthen that by making sure that we reached down into local communities, as well as made sure that 20% of our group were parent and family leaders. That we also included a lot of participation from Head Start, from our education system, from other statewide nonprofits that support early childhood, public health, social services, our resource and referral network, as well as city and research folks from UNC, UNC Greensboro, and NC State. Next slide, please. So using an inclusive model of bringing all these folks together from across sectors, we met in a series of 6 meetings in 2019 to create and endorse this framework for family engagement and leadership, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail. Our vision was really that North Carolina birth through 5 systems are family-centered and equitable, serving children in the context of their families and communities. That's the vision statement that we came up with. And as we developed both our meetings and our framework, we had the leadership of the Division of Child Development in North Carolina, Smart Start, who I mentioned, but we also had an accelerator team made up of 12 cross-sector leaders as well as parent leaders who helped develop this process, and as well as helped us reach out and research the best practices from both within North Carolina and around the country. Next slide, please. And what this resulted in was our family engagement and leadership framework. And you'll note that we don't just say family engagement. We felt it was important to say family engagement and leadership and name family leadership as an important element on the continuum of family engagement. And we do describe in our framework that that engagement really can run on a continuum from being a participant all the way to being a change maker, parent leader. We also are careful to make sure to define family engagement and other important terms in our framework. But my favorite definition and the one that is most salient is the one where the one here where we talk about family engagement meaning doing with, not for families. And it's also about the process of building relationships. So we know that relationships are really critical to good family engagement, as well as families feeling comfortable stepping forward into the space of being leaders. We developed guiding principles that reflect that. They definitely include relationships and shared decision-making, all the way to holding agencies accountable for making sure to include families in their systems improvement process. This framework, I should mention, really the audience for this framework is meant to be agencies and community leaders. It is meant to evoke systems level change and shift, as well as reference back to our learnings from developing local level family engagement coalitions as well. The conditions for success that we outlined, we drew from the Center for the Study of Social Policy, CSSP, and that they are family-centered, equity-driven, collaborative, and transparent. Another big inspiration for the North Carolina framework is the Head Start model, the Head Start family engagement model from the National Center of Parent, Family, and Community Engagement. And then as we developed some opportunities for action, we looked at the various systems and sectors in play in our North Carolina early childhood services spectrum, and thought about and offered the opportunities for action on both the state and local levels that, that would move engagement forward and deepen leadership on both the state and local levels. Last slide, please. So our framework was released in October 2020. That was later than we had anticipated due to COVID, but we were able to release it during Family Engagement Month, which we celebrated in November. And a link to it will be made available in the chat. We also have a Family Engagement Leadership Action Guide, which is a companion document that exists online, which is describing some of the local level community work that was done to support the family engagement embedding into the local communities through our Smart Start network. My contact information is here, and you're welcome to contact me if you'd like to learn more about North Carolina's approach.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. I appreciate all of the states sharing such informative presentations. Now we'd like to take the opportunity to ask the states a few questions. Our first question for the panel, whoops, if you could stop sharing. All right, how does the strategy that your state uses fit into your statewide mixed delivery system?
Are we ready? Sorry, my screen is going back and forth. Sorry.
It's all good.
So for us, we're trying to be very intentional about making sure parent voice is guiding all of our programs at the state level. We're also focusing on diversity by making sure that we have parents from all walks of life at the table. And then we're also working on identifying more parent leads and training them across our state so that we're not as provider heavy. And we have strong parent leads in some areas of our state, but not all. So that's really a goal of ours, is to increase that across our state, not just keeping them heavy in certain areas.
In Georgia, we are, as I said, making sure that as we select family peer ambassadors, that they represent the programs across our system and represent a variety of families. One area that we're really focusing on at this time is making sure that we have fathers. We've had some fathers participate and want to make sure that we're able to have fathers participate as family ambassadors. And then also looking at making sure that we're looking at families whose primary language is not English, and looking at their first language isn't English, and looking at those major languages and recruiting families that speak those languages and can support families from both the perspective of language, but also as culture. And I think that certainly will strengthen across our system as we support families.
So in Connecticut, we're following a similar approach. And I think that this was one area where we had a lot of deep discussion with the parent leaders that are helping to co-create, what the makeup is of the OEC parent cabinet. So within the Office of Early Childhood, we oversee home visiting, child care subsidy, child care programs, licensing, and a variety of other programming. And so when we think about the makeup of the cabinet, we really want to make sure that we are having all of that representation on the cabinet. So not just the geographic diversity, the language, the race, ethnicity, but also what are the living and life experiences that people can bring to the table that can really inform our practice and our approach. And so also with the structure of the subcommittees, we are looking to have those subcommittees really be representative of topics that are cross-sector, that really touch across all parts of the agency and across all important topics of children and families, prenatal to 5 or even prenatal to 8. And so those are some of the things that we're looking at. But this was really an area of deep conversation to to ask ourselves, what do we really mean as we define diversity within the cabinet?
And in North Carolina, we are continuing to use our Family Engagement and Leadership Coalition as a vehicle for sharing opportunities for family leadership in particular, as well as learning more about how different sectors can engage to deepen their family engagement skills and approaches. We're definitely supporting alignment between different programs, services, and sectors so that we have a less siloed approach to supporting both family engagement and the family leadership process, and can make sure that we are reinforcing the work that's being done in some agencies in some areas, and learn from it and echo and reflect it and build on it in a cohesive way as a state.
Great. It's really great to hear that all of the states that you've all intentionally thought about how to reach across your mixed delivery system. Thank you. And for our next question, what challenges or barriers have you had to overcome as you have built out your family engagement strategy? I think Kristen's going to start us off.
Yes, Kristen with Kentucky. So pre-pandemic, I always talk about pre-pandemic and post-pandemic because things are so different. But pre-pandemic, we had to identify the right partners across our state and get them trained first so that then they could bring this work to their own communities and implement it at that level. Then we had to provide a whole lot of TA assistance and support to ensure that the parent cafes were taking place across the state. We also brainstormed ways frequently to overcome the barriers that each area was faced with. And then we also celebrated a lot of the successes and shared those stories so that other people could share in that success as well. We held quarterly state leadership team meetings so that everybody could stay connected across the state and share ideas and brainstorm new ideas as well. And these are actually still happening today. And since the pandemic, we've had to totally shift to an online connection, which has been very difficult. An important part of the parent cafes is that face-to-face connection. And so this has been a little bit more of a struggle to do online, but we're making it work. I think that that's something that we'll try to continue even after it's safe to be back in person, because some parents have actually reported that they've been able to attend parent cafes since they are online. And then others say they don't like the parent cafes being online. So I think we'll continue to offer both options in the future to make sure we're not missing anybody that wants to participate.
In Georgia, some of our challenges, well, a lot of our challenges are the same that Kristen talked about. There's pre-pandemic and after. We had to shift to think about how do we support families in connecting with other families virtually. And we actually had not planned originally to do have our family ambassadors be social media influencers, but had to shift and think of some new things. And actually, there was a project out of Florida where they were promoting immunizations this way, and we thought, I think that's something we could do. Family ambassadors, there's been challenges with their comfort level. So we've done a lot of training and hand holding with them about how to do virtual work, how to do a social media post, and then also as we transitioned into doing virtual meetings and trainings, there's different levels of comfort with that. And so we've had to figure out how to support people. And then since we were reimbursing our family ambassadors for their time, we had to figure out what did that look like? How do we do a stipend for social media posts? And so we've navigated those waters too, and are happy to support in any states and thinking about that process.
And for Connecticut, certainly echoing what our colleagues have already shared. And I think that the challenges or barriers that we've experienced, I imagine many of you have experienced as well. And that is the reality of bureaucracy and certain red tapes and policies and those pieces needing to overcome in order to get the outcome of what we're striving for. And that certainly was present pre-pandemic and is present now and will maybe present even thereafter. But I think what speaks volumes is, in spite of that piece, that relevance, it really does encourage all of us to really optimize off of interagency collaboration and maintaining open lines of communication. And we certainly know that PDG certainly supports that. And this gives us even more reason to do that because we can't do it alone. So although there may be challenges we don't like, well, we just have to realize what it is and try to work to overcome it. So it certainly is not something that is hindering us from moving forward. It's just allowing us to open the lines of communication and certainly stay focused on what our North Star is to help us move forward.
And in North Carolina, in our focus on building family leadership, we identified that it's not just about supporting families as leaders, although that is extremely important, but also making sure that agencies are prepared to receive and welcome families as leaders and really honor that parent voice and use the information that the parents are offering as part of their agency or community improvement process. So we've noticed that there is training and support needed for the agencies and the staff to be prepared to receive those family leaders.
Well, that's great. I really love the positivity and the creative ways that each of your states have worked through your challenges. Thank you for being transparent about your challenges as well. I know that others love to hear how you work through those and the lessons learned. So thank you. Most of the states all said that they're going to be creating parent advisory councils. But what else do you see as next steps for family engagements in your state? And I think North Carolina, I think you're going to start us off.
Yes. So now we are in the age of Zoom, fully thrown into it because of COVID. And there are advantages and disadvantages, but we do feel like more of us, families included, are able to attend virtual conferences, online meetings, have increased the comfort there. So we are going to build on that and offer a family leadership conference that is going to be online. So North Carolina is developing an RFP to contract to have a family leadership conference offered hopefully in 2021. And the content of that will again be supported through a feedback loop system with the accelerator group of 12 leaders that I mentioned, and those who have been working on this work for the past 2 years to make sure that we're leveraging all the knowledge that we've learned, and then we can move it forward through this online approach.
In Georgia, we also are taking advantage of that new virtual, I mean, not new, but the new comfort with virtual engagement. And last year we actually did a trauma resiliency conference. And originally those conferences, we really anticipated them being more for our workforce. And what we found is our family ambassadors were really interested, and many of them applied to attend the conference and got a lot out of understanding the impact of trauma, not only to themselves, but also to the families they interacted with. And certainly there is an increase of trauma during this time because of the pandemic. So in the upcoming year, we will be doing those virtual trauma building resiliency conferences, and we're going to have an increased emphasis on families participating in them, not only our family ambassadors, but also other family members that might be interested.
And with Connecticut, continuing to do what we're doing, but I think our next step, our next goal really is more in a philosophical way and really trying to encourage a mentality of prioritizing having the family voice, having them involved in activities and decision makings, not as an accessory or a secondary thought, but as a primary thought. And I think the more that we're able to do that, not only with our agency, but also other agencies, that will allow for all of us to be accountable for the work that's being done. And in doing so, it's important for others to know how their commitment and investment is going to benefit them, because the young children that we're working to support to grow, they're going to grow up and to become adults that will one day be a part of these agencies. So it really is an investment that pays back tenfold for all of us. So certainly having that mentality that family first in all that we do is really important.
Yes, thank you, Lorna. That's extremely center of what we are doing. So thank you for closing us out with that. We have heard, could you go to the slides now, Carla? I wanted to thank each of our state presenters. We really appreciated you sharing about each of your strategies. We heard parent advisory cabinets, ensuring that parents are at the table, facilitating the process through the parent cabinet, and the intentional two-way communication, and that it really reinforced Connecticut's two-generational approach. We heard about family ambassadors, emphasizing family voice in community and state-level advisory groups, and also promoting birth to 5 developmental milestone websites and resources for families, from families. We heard from family cafes, which are parent-led activities focusing on the protective factors of families and empowering parents to emphasize and build off their strengths and learn problem-solving skills. And then community hubs. North Carolina's effort emphasizing working with families and not for families, focusing on relationships, strong networks for providing resources, and encouraging parents to be leaders. Thank you so much. Carolina?
Thank you. So here are some additional ways for you to continue the conversation and your learning that you may find valuable. The research brief, How State Leaders Can Promote Meaningful Family Engagement at the State and Program Level, is available on the PDG B-5 TA Center website. The link will be posted in the chat. We also have the research brief that we talked about at the start of our session available there. And the announcement for the state role in family engagement work group went out in our PDG B-5 TA newsletter starting in late April. And that's available for PDG B-5 grantees as well as other non-PDG B-5 grantee state staff that is engaging in that state level family engagement. If you have any questions, you can email pdgta@sri.com. And you'll see some other links pop up in the chat today. I want to thank you all so much for joining us, and having such a large group is a really positive note to know that so many people are interested and taking action to encourage families to participate in their state frameworks. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.